Sister's deceit and control revealed after her wedding. My sister Anne, 29F, has been best friends with Ruby, 30F, for as long as I can remember. Growing up, Ruby felt like a second big sister to me. Ruby has always had an outrageous fashion sense. She wears those runway outfits that seem too bold for everyday life. We got engaged before COVID hit. Right after it happened, she began acting really strange towards Ruby. I was surprised when she chose me as her maid of honor. They always said they would be the maid of honor for each other's weddings, but since I am her sister, it wasn't too strange. I was shocked when she created a group chat and I realized that Ruby wasn't even a bridesmaid. My mom and I tried to talk to her about it because we thought they had an argument or something, but she just said that Ruby didn't care anyway. Ruby was hurt, but she wanted to avoid drama, so I decided to let it go. During the entire wedding planning, my mom kept asking Anne if she would invite Ruby, if she would get Ruby's input, and so on. Anne would not engage with her or discuss anything related to the wedding at all. My sister got married on Saturday. She had a lovely outdoor wedding with social distancing. She was angry the entire time because of Ruby's dress. Ruby's actions weren't surprising to me, so I don't think she aimed to overshadow my sister. She chose a simple wedding dress, and that was her decision. Moai went to her fitting, and that was the one she picked. Anne has been yelling at Ruby, claiming their friendship is over, even though she ignored her throughout lockdown. I told her that she's been friends with Ruby for a long time and knows how she dresses, so she should have seen this coming. If it was such a big issue, she could have brought it up or just made her a bridesmaid. Anne snapped at me. After she yelled at me, she sent Ruby some really awful messages. She ignored me all day yesterday, but she was talking negatively about me to our dad, who is supporting her. My mom told Anne to apologize to Ruby for the mean messages and for yelling at me, so now Anne isn't talking to her either. I'm not sure what's happening, but Ruby insists they didn't have any argument or anything before COVID. Anne tells me it's not my concern and that I should be backing my actual sister. My dad is on her side, and now she's got the other bridesmaids turned against me. What should I do? Let me clarify a few points. Ruby didn't wear a wedding dress or anything too flashy. It was a dark red, tight-fitting dress made of smooth fabric. Many people were in form-fitting dresses, including the bridesmaids, and she blended right in. Edit again. Some of you are being ridiculous, assuming the absolute worst-case scenario. It wasn't a spaghetti-strap dress that barely covered her backside. It was the right length and had long sleeves. The bridesmaids were in bodycon dresses. Many other guests were there too. It wasn't a typical event. No one was bothered by our appearances, and Ruby's dress blended in just fine. Ruby is quite appealing. She has always been like that, but I never thought it bothered Anne before. Ruby and Anne had been friends for 25 years. They stayed in touch as adults, but then Anne suddenly stopped talking to Ruby. My mom and I weren't trying to control things, we were just concerned. We thought something serious must have occurred for them to stop communicating so suddenly. My mom got even more worried when Anne wouldn't talk about it, since she's usually very open. I don't have stronger feelings for Ruby compared to Anne or anything like that. I'm close to Ruby because Anne was really close to her before. I grew up following them around since they were always together. I care about Anne a lot, but I believe she's being unreasonable here. Ruby was definitely going to be at the wedding. I apologize for the poor wording. My mom suggested inviting Ruby for wedding prep activities like dress shopping and other things. I'm not sure if Dave, the groom, has feelings for Ruby. I never thought that. They've met many times, and there's never been any signs that he does. I don't think it's an affair. If it were, my sister wouldn't want to marry Dave, and Ruby wouldn't be invited to the wedding. Ruby has never gone after Anne's boyfriends or crushes. Update 1. I was planning to tell him this morning how much she means to me and that I'm there for her, but she's really upset again, so I'm holding off. Dave wanted me to speak with Anne. They had a big argument after he tried to defend Ruby on the wedding night. He wanted to know where he went wrong and how he could fix things with her. It's the first time he's asked me for help with his relationship, so he must be really struggling. I mentioned that I was just as confused and that we didn't understand why she wasn't in the bridal party, so he should try to discuss it with Anne. This is where things start to get strange. Dave explained that Ruby wasn't in either wedding party because he wanted her as the best woman, while Anne wanted her as the maid of honor. However, Anne refused to compromise and insisted they remove Ruby from both parties to keep it fair. He mentioned that she told Ruby about it, which led to their argument since Ruby wanted to be part of it. I agreed and ended the call, but the more I reflect on it, the more puzzled I feel. If there was a huge argument about Ruby being the maid of honor, she would definitely remember it, right? I don't get why Dave would choose Ruby as his best woman when he only met her after he started dating Anne. I'm really trying to follow your advice about not getting involved, but it's tough because now I'm super curious. I won't mention it though. I might never find out the truth, and it could bother me forever, but I've promised myself not to ask Anne about it again. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks to everyone for confirming that I'm not the one being unreasonable. Thanks to all the helpful UTA/SH verdicts that showed me how I can change my behavior to be a better sister in the future. Update 2. I'm really confused now. Dave called me about 30 minutes ago, sounding very angry, asking if any of his groomsmen acted inappropriately towards me. I inquired what, and he repeated the question. Anne was shouting something in the background. I mentioned that they were great at the wedding and that I hadn't spoken to them since. He asked me if Ruby was aware that she was supposed to be the best woman. I mentioned that I wasn't sure, but it was possible I didn't know, since both she and Anne had been pretty secretive about their situation. I suggested he ask them directly. He chuckled and ended the call. Ruby texted me asking what's going on and if I knew about the best woman maid of honor situation. I just received a message from a bridesmaid telling me not to answer if Dave calls. Anne is on the phone with my dad, and it sounds like she's screaming. I don't understand what's happening, but I believe there's some truth hidden in all this chaos. Everything feels like it's falling apart. I suspect the bridesmaids, especially one of them, might be involved. If this keeps up, I need to figure out what is going on. Update 3. Today has been filled with shouting and tears. I'm honestly exhausted, but many have asked for an update, so here it is. I'm still a bit in disbelief. Anne has been deceiving nearly everyone. The story is complex and lengthy. This list helped me understand it better. Here are the facts I have, listed in order of occurrence. Once, I had a strange encounter at a coffee shop. I was sitting alone, sipping my drink, when a random person approached me. They started talking about their day, and I listened politely. It was an odd conversation, but I didn't mind. After a while, Dave has served time and used to struggle with addiction. He met Ruby before Anne. After he recovered, he struggled with money, and Ruby helped him a lot. He thinks of her as one of his closest friends. 2 years later, Dave was thriving at work and had become more stable and functional. Ruby introduced him to Anne. 3. Anne hesitated to start a relationship with Dave due to his past, but she couldn't ignore her strong feelings for him. They started dating, but she felt embarrassed about his past, so she claimed they met on a dating app. Dave agreed to this back then. 4. As Dave grew more at ease with himself and their relationship deepened, he told Anne that she had to be truthful with us about his past. She said she would tell us, but she didn't. She informed Dave that she had written a fake letter for my family, expressing our gratitude for his honesty and acceptance of him. Ruby was told that my parents had reacted poorly, so she never mentioned it to Dave or my family, thinking it was still a touchy subject. 5. When Dave proposed, Anne began to panic about the wedding. Dave wanted his support group to attend, including Ruby as his best woman, to reveal the truth. She still didn't want to reveal who Dave was or admit to him that she had lied, so she chose to keep lying instead of being honest. 6. So, Anne. In the middle of the day, I found myself in an unexpected situation. It started when I decided to take a walk in the park. The sun was shining and everything seemed normal. As I strolled along the path, I noticed a commotion near the playground. Curious, acted really upset that she couldn't have Ruby as her maid of honor, so she could argue that she should be removed from both wedding parties. She informed Dave that she had talked to Ruby about their decision, and Ruby had expressed her concerns to make him feel better. She realized that if Ruby found out she was supposed to be the best woman, it might reach me and my mom, leading to questions about Ruby's relationship with Dave. She didn't say anything to Ruby, which is why Ruby was confused about what happened and couldn't come up with any thoughts. In the middle of the day, I found myself in a situation that was both unexpected and interesting. It all started when I decided to take a walk in the park. As I strolled along, I noticed something unusual happening nearby. A small crowd had gathered, and curiosity got the wrenth. I told Dave and his friends from the support group not to bring up the addiction in speeches or casual talks, since it could upset some family members before the wedding. In the middle of the day, I found myself in a situation that was both unexpected and amusing. I was just going about my routine when something caught my attention. It was a small incident, but it made me laugh. I decided to share it here because sometimes the simplest moments can be healing. I shared a lot of false stories about Ruby with the bridesmaid. She mentioned that she often caused scenes, that she planned to try and sleep with the groomsmen, that one of them was an ex who had dumped her, and that she would likely get very drunk. She portrayed Ruby as a ticking time bomb to turn the bridesmaids against her. This way, they could keep Ruby away from certain guests, especially those who knew Dave at the wedding. In the middle of the day, I found myself in an unexpected situation. It all started when I decided to take a walk in the park. The sun was shining, and everything seemed normal. Suddenly, I noticed a commotion near the fountain. A crowd had gathered, and curiosity I told the bridesmaids that Ruby was invited because I look up to her, so they wouldn't spread any of the lies she told me. After the wedding, she had a huge meltdown about the dress. The bridesmaids clearly didn't think highly of Ruby, so it was simple to persuade them that it was intended as a real insult. My dad did something and thought everyone would just give in right away because she was the bride. If my mom and I had done that, it would have just been a reason to exclude Ruby from our lives. 8. She attempted to convince Dave that his groomsmen had made inappropriate comments about the bridesmaids. The plan was to eliminate anyone who knew the truth about Dave from the social circle to prevent it from being mentioned again. Number 9. Dave sensed something was off. He wanted to know what the problem was with Ruby's dress and what his friends had said about it. Anne freaked out and said he didn't love her, that he picked his friends over her, and it escalated into a huge fight. Dave was angry and suspicious, so he began calling people to find out what happened. 10. Some of the bridesmaids mentioned that Anne was being honest about the groomsmen. She asked them to do something, but most felt uncomfortable with the request and managed to communicate that to Dave. He called to see if I had any idea what was happening. Anne told Dave I was like him, caring about Ruby more than her. She also said I wasn't there when it happened, but the timing of the story didn't add up, so Dave called me anyway. It was a strange phone call. 11. He realized she was not being honest, so he directly asked her what was happening. She opened up and shared everything with Dave. 12. He was really angry. He messaged everyone to share his history and then pretty much kicked us out. She arrived and had to explain everything again. Anne is really shaken up. I never thought she could be this deceptive and manipulative. I don't believe she's done anything like this in the past. I don't hate my sister, despite what some commenters might think. I feel bad for her, even though I'm really hurt by her actions. She's so guilty and miserable, worried that things with Dave won't get better. She's in bed now, really upset because our mom won't even acknowledge her. She's really angry that Anne would lie and hurt her and so many others. I get why she feels that way. My dad is really surprised and upset. Anne sent a message to Ruby. She messaged her to explain and apologize, but Ruby is clearly very angry and upset. She said she couldn't talk at the moment, but might call in the morning after they both had time to cool off. Dave is likely the most affected, and I get it. He didn't talk to Anne, but he told me he believed he had our acceptance. The letter she wrote to him was his most treasured possession since he got it, and discovering it was false was completely devastating. I told him we accepted him for who he was and that nobody blamed him, but I don't think it made much difference. He requested some space from our family, and I get it. I'm uncertain about when he might talk to Anne again or if he still wants to be her husband after this. I can't fault him if he decides to look for someone new. Thanks, Reddit. It seems everyone was mistaken, but I doubt anyone could have seen this coming. Many comments were insightful and made me think, even though most people seemed to be off track. Except for the strange comments about the dress, you're aware of your identity. Update 4. The last 2 weeks have been really stressful. Anne and my mom have been arguing and upset for a long time. We discovered that Anne's deception wasn't unexpected. She has been fixated on her appearance for a long time. She opened up about many things from high school and her work. Parts of it were concerning, and others felt truly frightening and controlling. I feel far away from who she is now. There's a tension between us that I doubt will ever fade. It hurts me a lot, since she's my sister. After my dad learned about some of the revelations, he thought it would be best for Anne to see a therapist. Anne had a tough time with the decision, which caused a big argument between her and my dad. I've never seen my dad that angry, and neither has she, which is likely why she finally agreed. The therapist is meant to assist her in processing her emotions after everything that has occurred and ideally uncover the root of her issue. Many comments pointed out that our family's way of interacting isn't healthy. I'm torn about this. My mom and I knew something was off, but that doesn't excuse our bad behavior, if that makes sense. I proposed family therapy. My parents are exploring this. I hope we can understand boundaries and each other better, and eventually move forward. Anne has been chatting a lot with Ruby. It seems Ruby is still quite upset. I've been following the advice to not interfere too much in their relationship and am letting them handle it on their own. Ruby and I talk often, but we don't discuss Anne. Dave sent a message 2 days ago that I believe has unfortunately settled this awful situation. After realizing this is a recurring issue, he decides he doesn't want to stay married to Anne. He feels she has not only hurt him, but also misled him about who she really is. Ruby told me he is looking for therapy and has shared what happened with friends, so he has good support around him. I won't get involved with him beyond that. He needs space from my family after everything. Still, knowing he's okay helps a bit. Anne is not handling this news well. When she first received the message, she seemed to have a panic attack. Her breathing was rapid, and she was shaking and crying. She is really angry with Ruby for telling Dave about her past. She is just as focused on the idea of being divorced as she is on the reality that Dave is leaving her. I hope the therapist can help her improve. I'm not taking it as hard as my mom, but I feel guilty for not noticing this sooner since she's not doing well.